Hello, everyone. This is Amy Dean. Happy holidays to you. And I'm very excited to dive into our inner child healing series. This is part one of two. And next week, we'll dive further into part two. So, to get started, I just want to say hello to each and every one of you. Please let me know where you are in the comments and ask any questions, as we go along here as well. So, to get started with, we talked about last week the impact of grief. And if you have not seen that audio just yet or that recording, you can go back to the main Facebook page, our main Facebook group, and you'll see there is, I think if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll be able to find it. But if you can't find it, let me know. You might say replay of impact of grief. And we can, absolutely get that to you so that you can get a chance to watch it because that was the introduction to this month's topic around grief, because this is such an important time for so many of you. I know that grief can come in many different forms. So it might be in the loss of a loved one, it might be in the loss of your identity or something like that. So just know you're not alone. And this series is meant to help you to understand that you are just here with a community of other people who want to heal and are also interested in their spiritual growth. So you're not alone. And I want to continue the momentum of giving you tools and resources to help you heal. So, to get started with, this is the first part of the inner child experience I'd like to provide. So, we're going to have a meditation. So, of course, if you're not somewhere comfortable or safe, you might want to do that or get to a place where you can, if that's possible. If not, just listen to what you can and then do the meditation later if you're not able to in this moment. So, as I mentioned last week, I just want to reiterate for those of you who are new to this series this month that when December starts or any time of the year, really, I know that there can be anniversaries of the loss of our loved ones that can bring up triggering memories. But essentially, whenever we're going through grief, it brings up residual grief, of the next steps and what could happen and how we're not going to have those same memories with our loved ones. So there's almost like this constant grief that's happening. And it's not just the main grief of losing what we've lost, but it's the continual reminders of that. So that's the struggle, right? Especially around the holiday season when, especially if you lost a loved one, it can be really hard to 100% let go, enjoy yourself, and to celebrate this time of year. So, something to note about this is that our inner child is always involved when it comes to grief because your inner child lives deep in your heart. And whether or not you've been acquainted, she is here and she is open to connecting with you as long as you're in a place to be able to provide that love and compassion. Now, with the inner child, one thing you might be wondering is, how does it connect to grief? How does this all come together? But if we think about it for a moment, as we're growing up, we have a lot of little losses as well as big losses throughout our childhood. And that inner child tends to be the one that carries a lot of these wounds, that tends to carry these burdens, so to speak, throughout your childhood. And so when we are going through losses in our adult life, it's often re-triggering our times when we were a child and we were, struck up against a difficult situation. We, may have gone through a significant loss in our lives. And so being an adult, we're just constantly re-triggering those inner child loss wounds. And they can be small too. It could have just been, a time where you, let's say, you went through a really hard time with a move. Let's say you moved with your family or one of your parents got a divorce. And all of these things are losses. They're all losses that we may or may not have come to terms with as a child. And so, right now, one thing to consider is that any kind of grief you're feeling is not just present moment grief, it's residual grief, right? It's grief from the past and the grief the inner child has been carrying for quite some time. So, last week, actually, I shared a little bit as to how grief is connected to our inner child. And if we think about it, it's not an easy thing. It's not easy to go back in time and to say, all right, I'm going to work on my wounding and I'm going to heal from it. Because the truth is, it can feel really big and it can feel really, really tough to do it alone or even with someone we care about. So I want just to acknowledge the immensity of the grief that we can feel and how hard it can be to fully release and let go and be with our grief. But I want to help you with that because I think you absolutely can. You can move these layers of grief to the side so you can experience the love and peace of your higher self, but without trying to get rid of grief, right? Because grief serves an important purpose. Grief is a way that we can understand we are love, because if we weren't love, why would we feel so much pain when anything less than love happens in our lives, right? When loss happens, when something's taken away from us and we can no longer feel that sense of love, like for a loved one, for example, that may have passed. It's really difficult. And we often suppress some or all of our grief as a result of this pain that we've been carrying for some time. And, to be honest, it is really hard to process all this grief at once. And our society makes it very hard to be with our grief too. In addition to the immensity of the feeling of grief, society in general, with our needs to get back to work, after losing a loved one, with not having the kind of community that we might need in order to heal from a loss, this is all part of it, right? This is all why we cannot just take the time to sit and allow the waves of grief to move through us. So for some of you, you might already know my story around grief. And this is, something that happened about 6 years ago now. My dad passed away, and it was the very hardest time of my life. He was my best friend, still is in spirit. And I had a loss of meaning for quite a while. And I didn't know if I was going to be able to get back on my feet again. It was quite shocking at the time. And even still, it's been, almost 6 years, but even still, the grief comes in waves and it's normal. And I think that sometimes we come to this feeling or this experience of needing to be done grieving at some point. And of course, we want to be done grieving at some point. But the grief does settle, especially if this is new grief for you. I want to just let you know it does settle and time does help. It does not heal all wounds, unfortunately, but it does help. And these waves of grief, as they come and go, you learn how to be with them and you learn how to even honor that experience in the moment. And that's what's happened for me, is noticing that it does lessen in intensity and that it comes in waves, and that I just need to be with it. And I just encourage you to do that as well, to the best of your ability, to be with your experience, because as you're with it, it moves out of your body and it's no longer as big as it was before. So please, if you feel comfortable, please do share your grief stories here. I would love to hear what you've been through, if it feels safe to do so, because what's important is that we know we're not alone, right? And our vulnerability with each other at this very sensitive time of year is very important, because we need to support each other. We need to create community. We need to let everyone know it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be grieving. There's nothing wrong with you if you're grieving, if something's coming up. So, with that, I want to take you through a meditation, as I mentioned earlier. So, if you could get really comfortable, if you're in a place to do so right now, it's going to be a short meditation just to help you get settled in. So, close your eyes if you can, and just breathing into your belly, allowing yourself to settle in and just arriving without having to do anything to arrive. Often we have to get comfortable to a certain extent, and we have to move around and we have to get our mind right. This is all the things that we think we have to do. But in truth, all you have to do is just arrive. So just eyes closed, sitting with your experience in the moment. And I just encourage you to be very gentle with noticing your breath. Notice how your breath goes in and out through your nose. Maybe it's cooler as it comes in, warmer as your breath leaves your body. So just take a few moments here just to let yourself be, to let yourself feel what you feel while focusing on your breath. And taking your time just to allow, again, we're not trying to get rid of thoughts or to change your experience. We just want to make space for your experience right now. And then when you're ready, I just invite you to journey with me to a beautiful scenic place that I'm going to take you to. And the scenic place is something I'd like for you to think of on your own, since, scenic and safe might feel differently to one person than it might be to another. So take some time to consider what is a beautiful, scenic, outdoorsy place that you can imagine that feels safe to you. And take a moment to consider the visuals of this place, to consider the way it feels. If you're at the beach, for example, you might imagine that you can see the waves and hear the waves crashing up against the shore, feeling the sun on your skin. So just take a few moments here. Just allow yourself to be in this beautiful space. And it doesn't have to take long. It doesn't have to take more than a moment to just transition your mind to a new place. And when you feel like you've arrived in this beautiful place, I just invite you to invite your inner child to meet with you in this beautiful place. And you might see your inner child walking towards you, and or you might feel your inner child somatically in your body first, and just allow your experience to be whatever it is, sitting with the knowing that your inner child will come at the right time for you. Good. And then when this inner child is present with you, when you feel this presence in maybe any kind of way, it doesn't have to just be somatically, or it doesn't have to just be in a visual kind of way. You might just have a sense or an intuitive knowing that that part of you is here. And I want to give you a little bit of time here to just send compassion and love to this inner child, to acknowledge the grief that this child is carrying and has been carrying for a really long time. Just sending so much love straight from your heart here. Imagining it's coming out from your heart, sending it directly to your inner child. Maybe offering some kind words such as, I'm really sorry you're suffering. I'm really sorry that you're grieving right now. Just noticing what arises within you as you send these loving words to your inner child. Even if you don't see your inner child, just sending that to that part of you. And you might even just make a commitment to this inner child to spend time with this part of you in the coming days and weeks around the holidays, and as a way of making sure this part of you knows that that this part isn't alone, that you're here with this inner child no matter what happens. Good. And as you're making that commitment, just encourage you to deepen your breath a little bit, coming back to the room wherever you are when you're ready. And Just please, I'd love to hear your experiences. Please do share in the comments what that was like to connect with your inner child in this way. This was very short and sweet for good reason. Don't want it to be overwhelming, because sometimes the emotions can become overwhelming during this. So please do share in the comments what you experienced. And also, I'd love to offer, a time to talk with you if you're interested in learning more about how to heal your inner child, how to work through grief and any kind of wounds that might be showing up as sadness, as frustration, as a lack of connection with your higher self. I'm here to support you. And so please let me know in the comments if you'd like to book a spiritual breakthrough call with me. It's complimentary. I want to help you understand more of your inner patterns, offer you some free tools and resources for your journey. And just so you know, the outcome, I think I didn't mention this earlier, but it's very important. The outcome of healing your inner child and what what you can do and how you can move through this working with me and in this kind of deep capacity with your inner child is ultimately you get to step into the joy that you are. You get to live your life knowing that you're not going to be swayed by emotion. Not to say you won't feel emotion, right? Or that you won't experience deep emotion, that you won't be swayed by it so that it controls your life. And the deep healing that happens here is this release of old memories, this release of old traumas, and therefore you step into the empowered, authentic self that you are. And that is what can happen when this inner child heals. So please do reach out. Let me know in the comments again if you want to book a spiritual breakthrough call with me and we can get that set up. And then, of course, any questions about this process, please do let me know. But please stay tuned for next week. And we're going to dive into part 2, where we can go even deeper with your inner child. All right, everyone, I look forward to seeing you then. And take care. Have a wonderful weekend. And we will be in touch soon. Bye. Namaste to you.